doing. Just give me a few seconds. I'm going to have some Gatorade. And this is what we're going to be working with here. So let me do a quick test of my microphone. I think it was too low. This is what we're going to be working with here. That sounds good. So I got some feedback. Okay. So here we go. So this is what I got. I got in Illustrator 3 columns of text. So somebody asked, here in Photoshop, I have a person working on a car, and I wanted to mask them out. Oh wait, this is like another video that's playing. Show you what the original looks like in the background.
So are you in Photoshop now?
Okay, ignore that. That was a little confusing. That was from a video that I had playing already. So here we go. So here is 3 columns, and the idea is, let's say you don't have access to InDesign, and you want to do a 3-column layout like you can in InDesign, where the text flows from one column to the next. Well, you can do the same thing in Illustrator. So Illustrator has a lot of similar features as InDesign. The one exception, the one thing that Illustrator does not have is multiple pages. So that's the thing that makes InDesign kind of indispensable for long format documents, is the fact that you can do multiple pages. Now in Illustrator you can do artboards, so that's the equivalent. But the thing you can also do in Illustrator that you can do in InDesign, which is a great feature, is flowing text. So this is how you do it. So this is already set up, but I'll start it from scratch so you can see how we can do it from the very beginning. So a new document here. And the first thing I want to do is bring out my rulers. So the rulers are going to let me bring out guides. So Command R or Control R brings your rulers out here. And then if you right click on your rulers, you can change the types of units. So let's go with inches. So I'm going to go with inches just to make things easier. Then if you left click on a ruler, you can drag it out and you have a guide. And they should pretty much snap to the increments in the ruler. So here I'm doing 1/4 inch guides, and these represent my margins. So just like you can create your margins in InDesign, I'm using Illustrator, but I'm using the guides to represent those margins. The next thing you can do, and this is kind of the cool thing about Illustrator, is I can create a rectangle, and it's snapping to my guides, which is nice. I have a rectangle, and then I can split the rectangle into columns. So I can create 3 columns from this rectangle. So all you need to do is go to Object, Path, and here in Illustrator, I can go into Split into Grid. And this brings up this dialog box, which is similar to the rows and columns dialog box you have in InDesign. Here I can tell the dialog box what I want by typing in 3 for my columns in the number there. And then for my gutter, I'll add 0.25. So give it a little gutter of 1/4 inch. You can hit preview to see what it looks like. That looks good. And then I'm going to hit OK. The other thing you can do too, which is kind of nice, is you can add these guides. So these guides here that you see that were just added are basically just lines. They're not like the regular guides. So you could select these and delete them and do other things to them if you want. So I'm going to hit OK. And then the next thing I'd like to do is, since these guides aren't regular guides, I like to lock them down. You can't lock them down when you go into View, Guides over here, because they're not regular guides. What you have to do is you go to Object, and you just go into Lock. And I say Lock Selection right here. So you can lock them down. Then go into your layers and find those rectangles that were made by that Split to Grid dialog that we just brought up. Select those 3 rectangles. So I'm in the Layers palette, and I'm clicking on these little circles here, so they're selected. Cut them out of the document. So Command or Control X, create a new layer, lock down your first layer, which is your guide layer, and then go into that new layer and hit Control F or Command F, which means paste in front, basically. And now you have these three rectangles in a separate layer. And the reason why you want to do that is because if I use the text tool on that first layer, it wants to select those little guides, those additional guides that I created. And it makes it difficult. So it's a lot easier to just put these rectangles in a separate layer. Now I'm going to go into my text tool, and I'm just going to click on the area type tool, and I'm going to click, and it's going to fill that first guide with that lorem ipsum placeholder text. So that's all set in there. And then what you can do to have the three columns link up is with your regular selection tool. If you click on that first rectangle with the text, there's a little box. You click on that box, and then you click on your next rectangle and drag within it, and it's gonna link the two. And I'm gonna do that down below. Click on that one, and now all three rectangles, which are our columns in the page layout in Illustrator, are linked. And then I'm going to use my text tool, select the text, do a Control A or Command A, and then hit Shift Control and period, or it's the greater than symbol, increase the size of the text, and you can see they're linked. So this is how Illustrator is very similar to InDesign. It has some of the same functionality for text layout. This is one of the features that you can use. So the idea is if you don't have InDesign, but you want to create page layout in a similar way, you do have those tools in Illustrator. So that's all I want to talk about. I'm glad my mic's working. My family is happy because they're eating shaved ice and watching Goonies. And if you have any more questions, let me know. Thanks.